a lot of people say, especially the newer ones, I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. Look, I get it. And there's one cure to that. Stop thinking about yourself. If you talk to somebody on the phone and you legitimately think about what they're going through as a homeowner, right? When we're cold calling, let's be honest, we're looking for someone who's distressed. Well, someone who's distressed is going to also need to be talking to someone who makes them vulnerable before they get to those levels of distress. So if you're considering their experience, you will always say the right thing.
Nicholas, thanks for coming on for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, head of partnerships for Deal Machine. And on these, we really like to shine a spotlight on experts like yourself, talking about how you see the world evolving and how you got into real estate and the lessons you've learned along the way. So today, really excited to welcome on Nicholas Nick. You've got such an interesting background. I mean, I know you're the founder of leadminingpros.com. So all things, marketing, online lead generation, all of that, you're pro at that. You're a former restaurant manager, did that for 13 years, you said?
Yeah.
And then former exec at a real estate investing education company too. So you've got quite a few different things you can, share with our audience here, and excited to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. And the stories are definitely plentiful from my direction. I'm definitely rich with experience.
Love it, man.
So yeah, dude, feel free, and thanks for having me. I've been following you and David and guys for a while, and I'm really pumped to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, to start with too, I mean, we'd love to hear kind of the story of how you got into this, why you started Lead Mining Pros, a little bit more about your background beyond that bio would be great for our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I'll do my best to keep it short and sweet. Boy, is it a long story, as you'll find most things are with me. But basically, I was a restaurant manager for 13 years and I was at my wit's end. And at 13 years, I'd really done everything. My salary was capped at $65,000 a year. How about them apples? And, I didn't really have a lot of places to move up. So I remember one day I was like, how am I going to quit this job? It's the only thing I know. How can I quit the only thing I know? And then one day I employed a lot of college students, and one of them said, I graduate in August. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to graduate in August too. And no matter what, by August, if I don't have another job, I'm walking the fuck out. I don't care. I'm just going to walk out. So I didn't make it to August. I only made it 1 month later to March. That's a true story. I walked out the next month. I am one of those people that when my heart's out, I'm out. It takes a while for my heart to get out. But once it does, I can't fake it. I can fake nothing, which you're soon going to find out over the next 30 minutes, but I can fake nothing. So anyways, I leave the restaurant career. I don't know what I'm doing. I apply to all these jobs. This guy messaged me back, hey, why don't you come work with us? I sat unemployed for 6 weeks with no opportunity. And when you're used to working 70 hours a week, like restaurant managers do, I was really starting to feel worthless. I can really sympathize with that emotion. If anyone else is struggling, man, I'm right there with you. I've been there, I remember it, and I know it well. So I apply for this job, I get this opportunity, and I'm basically an executive assistant. I'm like holding doors, taking notes. I don't even know what's going on, but it's a real estate education company. And I worked there for a while, and it was really interesting. The first 3 months, I didn't even know what we did. It didn't make sense. I was flipping burgers for the last 13 years. And now we're like mentoring people on how to learn real estate that I didn't even know what it was. So it took me a while to wrap my head around it. So now, 9 months into that career, even though the first 3, I had no idea what we did, 9 months in, I caught 3 promotions and I became an executive overseeing the entire division of our mentoring students. Really catapulted. My management skills from the restaurant career carried over. They were really strong. I worked at this place for about 3 years, and I oversaw over 2,000 people come through our real estate education program. And so now, finally, 5 minutes in, answering your question, how did I get started? Well, I shared all the pregame stuff because as a restaurant manager, I'm an expert at solving all problems, right? Nick,
Mhm.
the toilet's clogged. Nick, Sally didn't show up. Nick, you're fired. Okay. I've learned to solve all of the problems. And whenever I became an executive at this company of 2,000 people, as I'm sure you can imagine, I handled some complaints. Right?
Mhm.
So lead generation, I've learned, is real estate, right? Like everyone who wants to scale their business has to scale their lead gen. You can't scale acquisitions without scaling your lead gen.
Mhm.
And so I learned very quickly that I could teach our students like guerrilla warfare. You know, hey, I'll show you how to skip trace your list. I'll show you how to pull your list, and I'll show you how to cold call it, and that's free. So you don't have to pay the post office. You don't have to pay the print company. You don't have to pay any of these people anymore. Now, if you have a small budget, you can do this for free endlessly. And this ended up taking off like wildfire. It revitalized. I used to also be in charge of throwing live events. It totally revitalized our live events. People closed deals every time we threw one. So then, towards the end of my time with this company, I'd already come up with this big solution to this problem. And then, when my time of the company was coming to an end, which we can all sense it before it gets there, I was like, what's next for me? What's next? And I decided that for the first time ever, I was going to invest in real estate. And I started, and guess what? I knew that cold calling worked. I knew it. So I start cold calling every day, 300 to 600 dials a day. And I'm actually looking for my own real estate deal. And I never found it. But after 3 months of cold calling so amazingly consistently, I
Mhm.
realized that I'm not a closer, I'm a lead generator. And over that time, I ended up having 5 or 6 people inquiring about, hey, I noticed you're cold calling. Will you call for me? Can I pay you? Can I pay you? Can I pay you? And I ended up scooping up these clients and scooping up these people and realizing I was sitting on a much different gold mine than, real estate, but one that services people, uses my strengths to really service them. So let's fast forward to today. In 2021, we broke $800,000 in sales. We have over 30 employees that bring 6 systems all together, from cold calling, texting, systems exactly like yours. People use your driving for dollar lists all the time and
Love it.
send them over to us and have us call and text them. And now I provide this amazing done for you service. And we've been doing it. We're in our 5th year now.
Congrats. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been a crazy journey, but I told
No
the whole
kidding.
story because I think it's so organic, almost like the
Mhm.
way that we just naturally kept fumbling into the right decisions.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, like you said, a lot of our audience, they're using Deal Machine, they're building that lead list, and then they need to build those processes in place to be able to consistently market to them and be able to know how to get in touch with those motivated sellers. So could you maybe start there as well and kind of give us the framework around setting up the right lead generation system and how to follow up with them? And I know that's obviously a broad topic, but maybe going into the specifics on where you see the foundational stuff you can do, and then where you see
Yeah,
people possibly going astray a little bit.
absolutely. So, I think lead gen it is a numbers game. And that's why we really have to find out what works best for us. A system like mine, for example, really takes you out of the equation. We're kind of like partners. You don't have to manage me. You have to manage the leads we send you, right? Now, the difference with us is we already know what works. We already know the script, we know the dialer, we know the software. If you wanted to go out and take all this on yourself, you might have 10 hours of learning to do. And
Mhm.
and who's got 10 hours in a week that they're trying to kill like that? And then after they learn it, they then have to practice and implement it. So The real best lead generation system is one that you can do consistently, no matter what that looks like. Now, I tell all investors to do the time versus money equation. If you have the time and you don't have the money, you should be doing the work yourself. If you don't have the time and you do have the money, you should be seeking people to help shortcut that growth period. Okay. Now, a system like mine, I'm a firm believer that you literally couldn't do it for less if you did it yourself. I just got off the phone with the client and we offered 2,000 Filipino callers for $375. Okay. Or 2,000 Filipino dials for $375. Now, if she wanted to do this herself, she would have to pay for a dialing service. What's that, 150 to 200 a month? And she's already at over 50% of my cost, and there isn't even an employee involved yet. Let alone the employee, the management, the hiring. So one thing I try to be very keen on, especially from my real estate education days, is don't take on something that's going to snare you. Okay. For example, this one guy wanted to try a dialer out. For example, the dialer is called Call Tools. For anyone that knows Call Tools, it's very complex and has a very steep learning curve. I don't recommend any investors ever use Call Tools unless they're already tech savvy to a certain degree. What I recommend is Mojo Dialer if you're going to do the work yourself, because it's a simple interface, it's almost self-explanatory, and you don't have to learn anything. Now, why do I do that? Because I don't want you to start a new venture, get this really confusing software, and then move it to the back burner and never really start the new venture because you're always waiting to learn the confusing software. So looping that back into the answer, the best lead generation system is a consistent one. We have to be careful that we don't sidetrack ourselves with needing too much education before we enter a space. There can be companies like mine, for example, who, in my opinion, are just as expensive as doing it on your own and can shortcut all of the problems for you. So for me, it's really doing something you can maintain that also works perfectly in your budget. There's a way to do it without breaking the bank.
And when you're going through that process, something that you can maintain, can you kind of break down? I know you're really big on KPIs and measuring success and all that. Can you break down, how to think through what KPIs matter most, and really, like, I know you said it's a numbers game. Can you break down what the funnel looks like that too?
Yeah, absolutely, especially on a dialing perspective. So guys, I'll tell you the 4 main KPIs I track whenever we're cold calling. Okay, number 1 is dials made. Okay, clearly that's a super important phone number. Number 2 is how many people picked up the phone. That's going to give you your contact ratio. We want to see the contact ratio anywhere from 9 to 13%, which means on 100 dials, 9 to 13 people are answering the phone. We've also found if that number drops below 7 or 8%, it's going to be very difficult to generate a lead. So after we look at our contact rate, next we want to look at how many leads are we generating. Then on the lead flow, what we see is on the American side, a trained American can produce anywhere from 2 to 6 leads per 500 dials. And on the foreign side, we see a foreign person can generate anywhere from 1 to 4 leads per 500 dials. That's kind of the KPIs we look for there. Then the next KPI is wrong numbers, okay? Testing your skip tracing is so vitally important, okay? Now these 4 KPIs I shared are really how you're gonna decide what's working. So the dials tells you how much effort you applied. The contacts tells you how maybe accurate your list is. Maybe it tells you to look at what phone numbers on the outbound caller ID. One of the campaigns I just analyzed only had a 7% contact rate, but she did not have a number local to the area. So when we see that the KPI of the connections was low, we can start troubleshooting. Are we using a local phone number? Are we doing all the right steps? Guess what? She wasn't, which means she was already happy with the 7% contact rate. She's going to be thrilled when it goes to 13% and she gets almost twice as many leads.
Yep. And-
So that is the KPI. Then the wrong numbers are everything. So at Lead Mining, we found that our phone numbers are accurate over 80% of the time. Now, a lot of people, you may get 0 leads, and I'll tell you how knowing your wrong numbers can help. You may get 0 leads, or maybe 1, maybe it's disappointing. But if you find out that you had an accuracy rate of over 80%, and over 80% of the people you spoke to were the right person, that's still an amazing KPI. Let's look on the bright side and say, okay, maybe we should try different criteria or a different area, but we are talking to the right people.
Mhm.
You know, so as we analyze these KPIs, we're going to see, are we putting forth enough effort, the dials? Are our systems properly set up, the connections? How's our lead flow? That's probably the performance of your cold caller. And then the wrong numbers, that's going to be the performance of your skip tracing. So with these couple KPIs, we're actually watching 4 different systems at the same time.
Yeah. And then analyzing where the conversion rate's dropping off. And that way you can really isolate and figure out what's going on and dig into that one. Yeah.
Well, you know,
That's
and
great.
I'll actually touch on that real quick, Matt. And that is, you know, your list, our worst campaigns at Lead Mining that we get, the people, the results sucked. And I go, okay, where did you get the list from? I said, my mentor gave it to me. And I was like, what? Like, is it absentees? I don't know. Pre-foreclosure? I don't know. And the reason why it's important to know is exactly what you just mentioned. It's important to know so you know what to do differently if you need to do something differently, right? If that lead list blows up with leads, you don't even know how to duplicate it if you wanted to, because you don't know what kind of list it was. And so it's also important to know, after you know all those 4 KPIs, you then know your list criteria. So you then know what to tweak, what to change, and then where to go from there.
Love it. I know you touched on, you know, the cold call piece and, you know, a piece of that funnel being, you know, your actual, you know, dialer themselves and their performance. And I mean, obviously I know we're talking about, you know, outsourcing it, you know, and the benefits of that as well. But from a cold call perspective, I know you've done that many times over in your background. Do you have any tips there on how to have that conversation, how to open that conversation, you know, and anything that you can share with our audience, I think will be super beneficial too.
Yeah, I think this is good. You guys are going to love this stuff. Okay. So, you know, it's real simple. It's really simple. But, you know, a lot of people say, especially the newer ones, I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. Look, I get it. And there's one cure to that. Stop thinking about yourself. If you talk to somebody on the phone and you legitimately think about what they're going through as a homeowner, right? When we're cold calling, let's be honest, we're looking for someone who's distressed. Well, someone who's distressed is going to also need to be talking to someone who makes them vulnerable before they get to those levels of distress. So if you're considering their experience, you will always say the right thing. Oh, well, you know, my husband got COVID. Oh my God, that must be devastating. How have you guys been dealing with that? You know, oh, my husband got COVID. So what do you want to sell the house for? You know, there's 2 different ways. Maybe you didn't answer the question. You know, there's like 2 different ways to approach these people. And if we think about what they're going through, we're going to say the right thing. So that's number 1. Think about what they're going through. Think about your list. And you don't want to make them feel like you're targeting them. Like, for example, if it's pre-foreclosure and you call them up and they go, oh, you're calling me because we're in pre-foreclosure, right? You know, we say, ma'am, I am so sorry. I did not know that. And I'm sorry you're experiencing that. You know, we're just calling because we buy properties in an area and your house is in that area. You know, when people feel targeted, they get much more offended, you know? So you also don't, like, if it's probate, pre-foreclosure, anything like that, don't wear that on your sleeve when you call them. Another great ninja tip is on the intro of the call to make sure that you stumble a little bit. You don't want them to know this is your 10,000th cold call. Okay. This is something we do at Lead Mining. One of my partners used to say, even like fumble with some papers. Yeah, I'm calling for the owner of 123. There it is, 123 Sycamore Street. You know, we almost like break up the roboticness, you know. Another big tip is making them, making them, I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's all right. You're saying cold call tips?
Yeah, and you know, I think another big tip is, you know, asking the questions in an order that is like easiest to hardest. So one thing we do is we ask easiest to hardest. Hey, how many bedrooms are on the property? Or hey, any general repairs needed? How old's the roof? When's the last time it was remodeled? Is there a tenant in the property? Then we go into, is there a mortgage? What's your timeline to sell? And then is there a cash offer that you'd be willing to accept? So the questions get harder and harder and harder, and that's because your rapport is building as time goes on. The other thing that I was going to say was speak slowly so they can digest the information. Some of these people will hit you with a quick no, and they don't even know why you're calling. They're just saying no right away. So if you say, so for example, here's a great rebuttal that allow, hey, I'm looking for the owner. No, not me. Okay, great. Look, I totally get it. Would you maybe mind taking down my phone number in case anyone you know ever considers selling? So then they're like, oh, wait, what are you calling about again? You know, and speaking slowly can help knock them out of their default to no status.
Yeah, I appreciate all the tactical tips too, like getting very specific on the how-tos. That our audience definitely appreciates that. But
Yeah, you know, I'm definitely the right guy to ask.
I know one other area that I know you can touch on, I mean, especially given your restaurant experience, is the customer service aspect. What do you think from your restaurant industry and your days there, what customer service lessons did you learn that apply to what you do now and apply to our audience when it comes to real estate investing and wholesaling and you know, that whole area? Just I think that's a wealth of knowledge that you have that our audience could learn from too.
Well, you know, customer service, I mean, it is everything. I guess you can hear a twinge of the customer service and think about their experience, right? That, you know, they're going through. And I really think it has been a game changer for me. When you think about taking care of these people as your customer, it will start to shift, you know, your outcome. Me personally, I give everybody all the time in the world. If you call my cell phone, which is on the website, you're going to get me and you will never be rushed off the phone by me. You're going to get all the time that you need. And what happens there is, yeah, not everyone buys. You know, everyone buys that same conversation that same day. But I can tell you what, when you leave an amazing impression, you weren't pushy, you weren't rushing them off the phone, you answered all their questions. When they finally are ready, 1 to 5 months later, you're going to be the person that they choose to go with. And I think that's like real customer service is, you know, almost like weaning the customer onto you. You know, a example I used to give is that seller is like a deer in the woods. And if you run up to that deer, you're never going to see that deer again for the rest of your life. Okay. It's going to, well, I don't know what that human was doing. It was sprinting at me. I'm not going out there ever again. Now, if you slowly walk up to that deer and you have some treats in your hand, you know, and you take your time, that deer will be eating out of your hand. So, our approach to these people and to these leads are really going to govern. And when you master that approach, they're going to say the same thing. And your customers that are already doing this already know. They're going to say, no one has ever treated me like this before. Thank you so much. And when people are saying that to you, that's when you know you crushed it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great tip for any role that's outward facing and negotiation and all of that. It's not sprint to the finish. It's think about what they want and slowly help them over time and build that relationship.
Yeah.
But well, this has been awesome, Nicholas. One thing I'd love to touch on too is I know in general you have a ton of grit, given your background in the restaurant industry. You're great motivator. There's plenty of people who are watching this that are, we're early in 2022. They're, thinking about making a change in their life. Do you have any thoughts for them to get out there and, be able to get into this space and get fired up about this year? I, would love to hear your thoughts on what you see coming this year and if you can give any words of encouragement for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with 2022 on the horizon, guys, personally, I'm fired up. New Year's Eve, it was New Year's Eve, the last day of the year, I was working till 10 o'clock at night. I was trying to break every damn record in my business. I'm following up with people. I'm offering discounts. I'm trying to get that final day as big as possible. And I just told this story on another podcast I was on, but when you are truly proactive, you can compound your wins. Very often, human nature waits for something bad to happen for us to finally do that thing we've been waiting to do, right? And if you can do that thing before the world forces you to, you will constantly be ahead of the curve. So my truest advice, and it's going to be hard as shit to follow, but it's going to be great, is find out what you're procrastinating on and do it before it needs to be done. And you will stay ahead of the curve, and I'll leave us with a story about my father that is very similar. And earlier this year, I had really grown my friend group a lot. And I was focusing a lot on friendships, and I was like really ignoring my parents. They're only about an hour away. I'm 36 years old. I'm ready to be left alone. And, after 6 months of partying, fun, whatever, adventures with the friends, I decided to separate from them and refocus on my parents. And I went on a couple of vacations with them. I even paid for a vacation to California for all of us to go. Now, I had also at this time, I go out and I see my dad weekly. I did all of this just to reconnect with them. Well, the day before one of the vacations, my dad gets diagnosed with brain cancer. And this isn't the first time. So although it's a shock, it's not that much of a shock. And at the time when he told me, I started tearing up and I was getting emotional, but those was actually happy tears because almost for the first time in my life, I proactively made a decision before I was forced to do it. And when I sat there, my father told me, and I said, well, at least we're best friends now. And I'm going to be right here and going through this with you, Dad. When if it would have been 3 months prior, he probably wouldn't even have felt comfortable enough to tell me. I wouldn't have the opportunity to. And then when he did tell me, I would have felt like I was running out of time and trying to make up for lost time. But my proactivity allowed me to stay ahead of it. So my father taught me that lesson 2 weeks before the year ended. And you know what? I'm carrying that energy into 2022. I'm updating my marketing. I'm improving my processes. I'm making sure my acquisition managers are doing all the right stuff before something explodes, before something horrible happens.
Yeah. Well, I'm again so sorry that your father and your family are going through that, but I love to hear your beautiful perspective on it and how you have taken that proactive approach to doing something before it needs to be done. And in this case, it's one of the most important things in the world. So I,
Yeah.
appreciate you being open to sharing that. But
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. And the truth is, guys, this is life. This is life, Matt. And, this is what we all deal with every day. And I'm not the entrepreneur that posts the good and not the bad. I'm the
yeah,
opposite. And, but I take the bad and I turn it into fuel, and I'm here to be fueled up, man. I'm here to take off. I want to respect Pops. I need to take my life. I need to 10X my life.
yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you sharing that fuel and that inspiration with our audience too. And, they should be pumped up after watching this as well. But thanks again. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you too, Nicholas?
So honestly, the cell phone number's on the website. If you want a direct connection, you got it right there. Otherwise, I am a freaking hoot on Facebook. And feel free to find me. My first name is Nicholas. My last name is Nick.
Easy
Yes,
to
that's
remember.
yes, that's my real name. That's not a Facebook pseudonym or anything like that. But I do have to delete some friends, which I'll do right when we hang up to make some room. But guys, yeah, feel free to hit me up, follow my journey, and maybe you'll definitely get some nuggets out of it.
Awesome, man. Well, again, appreciate your time and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks again, Nicholas. Really enjoyed the conversation, and to everyone watching, this is Matt Camp with Deal Machine, and happy deal finding.